Welcome to a brand new episode of Wrestling with Siblings. I'm your host, Araceli, and this is my co-host, Armando.
Hi guys, I'm Armando, and welcome to Wrestling with Siblings.
We were having technical difficulties, so we're just going to bring you the audio for today, but we'll be back next week. Alright, let's get started with Raw was in Baltimore, and very odd way to start off Raw. We usually don't get contract signings at the beginning of the show. They usually close out the show. But in this case, Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins' contract signing opens up Raw.
Yeah, very interesting tag team just because they are going to be facing each other at Clash of Champions for the WWE Universal title.
And Seth Rollins comes out and he's like, I'm no stranger to defending the championship twice in one night. And, I mean, he's right. He does definitely have that experience, but he also has to keep in mind none of these men are going to go in 100% into their match at Clash of Champions.
They're not going to go in 100%. I agree with you on that. But mainly, I think it's going to be the focus on how well they're going to get along at that pay-per-view. And that's going to be very crucial to both of them. And falling back, like you said, on Seth Rollins, that it hasn't been the first time that he has had two matches in one night. He proved it a couple years back when he faced John Cena. I believe it was for the U.S. title, and then that same night he went and faced Sting. So he was pretty successful. But I guess scenarios are different because his opponent now is going to be his tag team partner.
Yes, 100% agree with you on that one. And he starts throwing shots and firing shots at Braun Strowman, and he tells him, he's like, I slayed the beast, something you couldn't do. And obviously that bothers Braun Strowman because as of right now, he's never been able to win a championship other than the tag team championship.
That is correct. I think Braun Strowman could have done a little bit better against the Beast, and he wasn't successful, but Seth Rollins was.
He definitely was, and I think they've wasted so much of Braun Strowman. I think they could have done so much with him, and they still haven't. For some reason, they haven't pulled the trigger on giving him a world championship. It could benefit him in the long run, but as of right now, I feel like he really is somebody that should have a championship at least.
And I like the way the storyline is playing. It's something new, something different that we haven't seen yet, and hopefully it plays out correctly. And who knows, this may be Braun Strowman's time.
Yes, and before they can continue with the contract signing, AJ Styles and the OC decide to interrupt. And AJ decides to say that at Clash of Champions, history will be made because Seth Rollins is defending against Braun Strowman, which is his tag team partner. And he says that's never happened before, where he's actually defending his championship and defending the championship they both holds together against each other.
But we know the real reason why he was really out there, and that's because he pretty much got jealous of Braun Strowman because he pretty much got handed the opportunity by Seth Rollins. And AJ pretty much states, so nowadays all you gotta do is look at the WWE Universal Championship to get a title match. That's pretty much pathetic.
Yeah, AJ believes he should be the number one contender for the Universal Champion simply because he is the United States Champion. So he feels entitled to a title shot opportunity, but I do think Braun Strowman earned his opportunity.
I think Braun Strowman did earn his opportunity. I have to agree with you on that one as well.
And AJ Styles really pushed it. He went into the ring and tore the contract up, and this leads into a match, Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins versus the OC. AJ Styles watching from the side.
Yeah, Luke Gallows and Anderson. What a great way for Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman to test each other out and see how good of a tag team they really are and if they could actually get along. And it looks like they actually ended up doing a pretty good job.
Yes, they were all focused, and I think the OC is brilliant in this scenario because they isolated Seth Rollins. They tried to keep Braun Strowman as far away from... They try to keep Seth Rollins as far away from Braun Strowman as they possibly can. And that's brilliant because they're keeping the most dangerous target away from them.
Not only that, but Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson pretty much have years and years of experience of being tag team. They are not new to the tag team division. So they were going to work Seth Rollins out till he was pretty much done.
And that's exactly what they did in this match. And at the end of the day, we know who the game changer is, and that is Braun Strowman. And because they isolated Seth Rollins, they were able to maintain the match at the pace that they wanted it to go. They're smart, and like you said, they're really, really experienced. And if you put 2 and 2 together, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson are the ones with the most experience. They've been tag team for years and years and years. And Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman just became a tag team a little over, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah, and then this is how smart the real OC is. As soon as Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins started to gain momentum, what happens? AJ Styles decides to get involved in the match.
Yes. And that is brilliant because he's like, you know what? This is not going to happen. I'm going to keep the OC as the most relevant, and I'm going to keep them so that way they can prove that they deserve an opportunity at the Tag Team Championships again.
And it ends up turning into a little small mini brawl between the OC and Braun Strowman, and who decides to come out and help out the OC? Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode.
Yeah, so a little brawl did break out, but now moving on to the very next match, which was Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode versus Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. So, very interesting match. I think it was great. I think all the talent that's being showcased is on a different level right now, and I really do think the Raw Tag Team division has really escalated over the last couple of months.
It has, and for a while it was the Smackdown Tag Team division that was relevant, that was the top of their game, and now it looks like the Raw division is starting to shape up a little more. But Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, I mean, what a tag team. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Sheamus and Cesaro, where it's like kind of odd and it's not going to work. But looking at this tag team, it's going to work. And I don't know, man. They're going to give a great fight to Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins for the titles.
They get along super, super well. It's quite incredible because a team that was put together out of the blue with no intention whatsoever became number one contenders, and now they're going to be facing the champions. That's kind of crazy to me because they have no experience being together as a tag team, and now they're climbing the ladder as the top competitors. That's pretty insane.
Not only that, but you have Robert Roode's ego, and same thing with Dolph Ziggler's. You figure that these egos were going to clash at some point, and they haven't yet, and that's what makes it even better, that they're getting along so well.
And I like how in each and every single one of their matches that we've seen so far, they're keeping each other fresh. Constant tags, in and out of the ring, doing small damages, and immediately tagging. They're keeping each other fresh, and that's something that the other team has to capitalize on.
One thing that I really like about Dolph Ziggler is that he is smart. He knows who he could partner himself with, and whoever he does, he ends up being successful. So, like I said, don't be surprised if this team ends up winning the tag team championship.
And let's get a little bit into Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. Probably the underdog tag team of the entire division, if you really look at it. Zack Ryder, absolutely incredible. I think he finally got the opportunity to showcase what he's really made of and what he's capable of.
Yeah, after that huge victory he had at WrestleMania, he just pretty much took off from there.
Yeah, I believe it was at 31 where he won the Intercontinental Championship, and then now at WrestleMania, I believe it was this year, he won the Tag Team Champions, and that's something that nobody was expecting, but everybody was behind him, and I think he finally got the push that he deserves.
Yeah, I just think we need to see more of Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. I think they're great, and I mean, they had a great title run when they were champions.
They definitely did, and I do want to see more of them. I agree with you on that one, for sure.
This is another one of the top tag teams that we have in the Raw division.
And if not, in the entire division. All right, let's move on to the first women's match, which was Lacey Evans versus Natalya. Very interesting. First time, I believe this is the first time we see Lacey Evans since it wasn't Hell in a Cell. It was the last pay-per-view that just happened. Very interesting.
Yeah, and then Lacey Evans, what a great way to show herself against a pioneer of this division, Natty. But Natty's attitude really surprised me. She is pretty much pissed off. So what does she do? She comes out and she attacks Lacey Evans from behind, which is kind of unusual for Natty to do.
This is a different Natalya, and I like this Natalya. She's more fired up. She's focused. She knows what she wants, and I think Sasha Banks really brought out a whole different side of Natalya and really sparked something in her.
Yeah, Natalya knows that if she doesn't watch her back and if she doesn't find that aggression, Sasha Banks is going to come after her and going to see her as a weak link.
Not only Sasha Banks, but the entire women's division, and I think that's something that everybody's going to take advantage of her. They see her as the weak link, as you said, and everybody's going to be like, you know what, this is our target, this is who we target, and now she's trying to prove, well, I am the best there was, the best there is, and the best I'll ever will be.
Definitely, and she did take it to Lacey Evans throughout the match. We saw her try to take the match to the mat, which is in her favor. We know Natty is a great technical wrestler.
She definitely is. I mean, she was showing no mercy against Lacey Evans, and I was liking it. I like this new Natalya, and I do want to see more of this Natalya. Now, it's interesting because who do you see Natalya feuding with next? I mean, we saw her feud with Sasha Banks for a little bit, and now she's against Lacey Evans. Who do you think her next target will be?
I think she's going to continue to feud with Lacey Evans just because they both had a great match, and even though Lacey Evans was able to connect the women's right, I don't think Natty was happy with the result of the match.
I agree with you on that one. And Lacey Evans, I mean, absolutely incredible. We've gotten into her so many times, and the talent that she actually possesses. In the moment her career really takes off, that's it. She's going to be unstoppable. She's going to be one of the greatest stars in the women's division. Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch has something to say. She comes out and she calls out Sasha Banks, which I don't think is a brilliant idea because right now Sasha Banks is unhinged and she will go against anyone.
Yeah, right now Sasha Banks is not afraid of anybody, and like you say, she'll take on anybody. But like I said, I was really looking forward to see what Becky Lynch was going to say about Sasha and if they were going to go at it one more time.
Yeah, so she starts off by saying that Sasha Banks was the center of attention down in NXT. You know, she got all the main events, she's gotten pay-per-views, she's gotten all the first evers, and she also was receiving flowers after her matches, and she called her and Charlotte Flair a fraud. Very strong words from Becky Lynch.
Yeah, seems to me like Becky Lynch was kind of throwing her jealousy at
Sasha Banks?
At Sasha Banks, yeah.
And she also continues to say that Sasha left with nothing after WrestleMania and that Bayley is doing great without her. And I think this is where it really starts to get interesting because Becky Lynch is trying to get inside of the head of Sasha Banks, but she knows she can't get in the head of Sasha. So what is she going to do? She's going to target Bayley, and that's brilliant because Bayley's a little more open to that type of stuff, you know?
Yeah, she is, and we're not saying that Bayley is the weaker link, which I don't think she is, but it's just an easy target for Becky Lynch.
And now she's stirring things up against Sasha Banks and Bayley because she knows that Bayley and Sasha are very, I don't want to say weak, but if Sasha does something to Bayley, they will turn on each other, and I think that's what she's trying to get to.
They're very protective of each other is pretty much what you're trying to say.
Yes.
So whatever one does, the other one's pretty much going to have each other's back.
Yes.
And I'm really interested to see how this match is going to play out. Sasha Banks versus the man Becky Lynch.
Yes. This is probably one of my dream matches, and I'll put that out there. It's one of my dream matches today in this generation, and I think it's going to be a brutal, amazing match.
It is. I think it has all the factors just because Becky Lynch is probably the top woman in the women's division right now, or she's had an incredible year. And Sasha Banks has had an epic return, and I think they're both at their prime right now.
Sasha Banks has heard enough, though, so she decides to come out, and she's like, well, you know what? You are jealous of me because I was supposed to be you. I was supposed to main event. I was supposed to get the magazine covers. And pretty much the only reason why Becky Lynch even got that, and I quote, is because Nia Jax broke her nose. So Sasha Banks comes out throwing shots at Becky Lynch.
She does, and she's throwing down a lot of facts which are pretty much true on what happened. I mean, I think that a lot of it had to do when Becky Lynch turned on Charlotte, and then after that she pretty much got punched in the face by Nia Jax. I think that was the whole turnaround and what changed her career.
Sasha says she can make this personal, but everything will be money and on her terms. So what does she do? She decides to challenge Becky Lynch at Clash of Champions for the Raw Women's Championship. And like we said a few moments ago, this is going to be one of the greatest matches in history for the women's division. And well, Becky Lynch is like, fine, I accept the challenge. And literally the boss throwing shots. And I cannot have enough of Sasha Banks because she's like, I will make you my bitch at Clash of Champions.
Very, very powerful words from Sasha Banks. We'll see where this match ends up and where this feud leads up to.
Stay tuned for the predictions coming to you next week. Alright, moving on to Baron Corbin versus Cedric Alexander. This was a quarterfinals qualifying match, and the winner of this match was going to move on to the semifinals.
I think Baron Corbin walked in preparing to this match. Why? Because like we said before, Baron Corbin analyzes his opponents, and he learned from the mistakes that McIntyre did last week on his match against Cedric Alexander.
And we knew right off the bat that Cedric Alexander was not 100%. He got attacked right before his match, and that was an advantage that Baron Corbin had since the very beginning. And not only that, but as you said, he does analyze each and every single one of his opponents, so he was definitely prepared.
And Baron Corbin was just smart throughout the whole match. He was just targeting his legs and Cedric Alexander's back throughout the whole match, and he knew that without those two crucial body parts, without the back and his legs, he wasn't going to do much.
And that's because of the type of wrestling style that Cedric Alexander has. And Baron Corbin using his power to his advantage, and he knew going into this match that if he used his power, he was going to be able to out-wrestle Cedric Alexander.
At times, Cedric Alexander's speed was too much for Baron Corbin, but like you said, that's where Baron Corbin, having that experience and facing all the top athletes, has come into play, and he knew he was just waiting pretty much for the perfect timing for Cedric Alexander to defeat him.
And I gotta give props to Cedric Alexander. I mean, the guy is incredible in the ring, and he has amazing matches, and he proved that against Baron Corbin, and I definitely do want to see more of him. Potentially even give him the United States Championship or the Intercontinental Championship. I think he would do great with it. I mean, he did come from 205 Live. We know his wrestling style. The guy is good, and I want to see more of him.
I mean, he pretty much proved himself against Roman, Cedric Alexander, McIntyre, and now Baron Corbin. And I think the King of the Ring tournament was going to expose him even more, and it sure did.
It definitely did, and unfortunately he's not moving on to the next round, but he came out of this tournament already solidifying himself as a top competitor. Alright, moving on to Samoa Joe versus Ricochet. King of the Ring quarterfinals and semifinals qualifying match. Samoa Joe, very, very brutal. We already knew Samoa Joe was going to be more than 100% prepared and ready for Ricochet. He is the type of competitor that uses power to his advantage to stop Ricochet's speed, and that is exactly what he did. He completely destroyed Ricochet to this entire match.
This is a tournament made for guys like Samoa Joe. He is just focused, and he's willing to go through anybody that stands in his way to win. And that's what he was trying to do in this match.
Yeah, and Samoa Joe is so quick, you can't get confident because you never know when he's going to strike and when he's going to catch you in your tracks.
Not only that, but he's so quick at executing the coquina clutch that he could pretty much execute it out of nowhere. And I think that has been his downfall these past couple of matches. He hasn't been able to execute the coquina clutch, and it's cost him some matches.
Yes. And Ricochet, obviously using his style to his advantage, he thought maybe his speed was going to be able to help him out against somebody like Joe. And at the end of the day, let's put it this way. Joe couldn't overpower Ricochet, and Ricochet couldn't overspeed Samoa Joe, because at the end of the day, it was a double pin.
Yeah, and then when Ricochet would build momentum, Samoa Joe would stop his momentum, and same thing with Samoa Joe. When Samoa Joe would build momentum, Ricochet would figure something out to stop him. And like you said, it ended in controversy because both of their shoulders were down, and the ref didn't notice, so we pretty much didn't have a winner.
Yeah, so it ended up being pretty much both of them won this match, and the referee wanted a headset, and he starts talking to management or executives backstage, and they finally go to the backstage, and that's when they decide it'll be a triple threat next week. And by triple threat, we mean Baron Corbin, who qualified against his match against Cedric Alexander, and then it'll be Ricochet and Samoa Joe. The winner of that match will move on to the finals, I guess.
We can say that the odds are stacked against Baron Corbin pretty much, because he has to defeat 2 other opponents.
Yep.
I mean, he already won his match. He technically should have a singles match, but I get where they're going with this. Me personally, I would have just restarted the match on Smackdown on Tuesday.
Yeah. Or even at that second. But, I mean, I understand where they're coming from. Everybody pretty much here, or at least one competitor, is going to be taken out of this equation simply because, like you said, Baron Corbin earned his opportunity, and now he has to face 2 competitors to move on. But then at the same time, Samoa Joe and Ricochet have to outlast 2 other competitors as well to be able to earn their opportunity to go to the finals.
Yeah, and Baron Corbin doesn't have to get pinned to lose this match, and he'll be out of the tournament. But it's same way for everybody. Who do you got in this match for next week?
If we're speaking obvious choice, Ricochet, right? But if we're talking who I would like to advance and see go to the finals and potentially become King of the Ring, then I'd go with Baron Corbin.
I'm going to have to stick from my pick since the beginning, Baron Corbin.
100% agree with you on that one. All right, let's move on to The Miz versus Cesaro. Very interesting match. I loved it. A new side of The Miz that we haven't seen in a while, and I don't know why, but there was this new spark to The Miz. He was all fired up. He was ready to go. He was focused. He was determined, and that is what helped him out in this match.
Yeah, I think he's fired up with these past couple of weeks, and I think a lot of it has to do with Shinsuke Nakamura. I think Shinsuke Nakamura is pretty much getting in his head along with Sami Zayn, and he wants to prove a point like, look, the old Miz is gone. This is a new, more focused, more mature Miz.
Yes, and he has improved his arsenal over the last couple of years, and that's something you really have to give him props to, because Miz was always seen as an underdog, and yes, I guess you can still consider him one, but now he's an elite talent.
Yep, he is. And then Cesaro, man, I think he's one of the greats in the roster right now, one of the top athletes. I mean, his just athleticism, his power, he's got the full package, and he never disappoints us.
Yep, it doesn't matter who you put him up against, he will always have a great match, and whether he's a singles competitor or he's in a tag team, he is brilliant. And I really do think WWE is missing out by not giving him the push, by not giving him a championship such as the United States Championship or the Intercontinental. I think he would do great with it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe in the future, he'll be in the title picture for either the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship. Yeah, I think he'd do great.
We knew he was for a while partnered with Sheamus. I think now he's slowly transitioning back into the singles competition, which I think he's going to do awesome.
Now let's go into the main event. The women main eventing for the first time since WrestleMania. It's quite amazing to be able to see this yet again. Becky Lynch and Bayley versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross.
Yeah, you have pretty much the showcase of champions. Very interesting to see how Bayley and Becky Lynch were going to get along, just because, like you said earlier, Becky Lynch was kind of throwing shots at Sasha Banks using Bayley.
And Bayley seemed to coexist with Becky very, very well. You know, Bayley's always been a competitor that no matter who you put her up against, she's more about sticking together than it is about winning a match or losing a match. And she's been very dominant. She has been carrying the division for as long as I can remember now, for the last couple of months. And she has really been able to finally bring out that Bayley we saw down in NXT.
Yeah, and then not only that, but we also have on the other side Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, which makes a very unique tag team because they're new. A lot of the women still haven't been able to figure them out because they've only been a tag team for a couple weeks.
Yes, and that is their biggest advantage as of right now, and that is the reason why they are the tag team champions. And we've talked about this many, many times, but Alexa has done a fantastic job with Nikki Cross. She's done exactly what she wants, and now Nikki Cross is at the palm of her hands.
Yeah, and they work so well together that Alexa Bliss has molded, like you said, into what she wants. That you can see in matches that Alexa Bliss distracts the ref, and then Nikki Cross immediately on cue, she goes out and she attacks the opponent.
Yes, and during this match, Sasha Banks comes out, and obviously this is a distraction for Becky Lynch because she's never had this happen other than with, I believe, Lacey Evans. But right now she has a huge target on her back, and that is Sasha Banks.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously it's hard to stay focused in a match when you have your opponent that's going to face you at Clash of Champions at ringside, knowing that they could attack at any moment.
Yes, and Becky finally being able to get inside the ring, decides to take out everybody. She was all fired up, and I think she wanted to prove something to Sasha Banks. I think she wanted to prove, you know what, this is my division. This is why I am the Raw Women's Champion. And this is why I'm so good, and I deserve those magazines. I deserve everything that she's gotten so far.
And sure enough, like you said, once Becky Lynch started building momentum and starting to clear the ring, what happens? Sasha Banks decides to interfere in the match and attack Becky Lynch.
Yes, and chair shot to Becky Lynch. And at this point, you see Bayley coming to break up Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And at this point, you're like, okay, now what's going to happen? Because we get that stare down between Bayley and Sasha Banks. And we finally got a Bayley heel turn. Bayley decides to take the chair from Sasha Banks. She smiles at her and she starts hitting Lynch like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, she finally turned, and I think Sasha had a lot to do with this. She's just pretty much having her friends back. I think that's what it is.
Let's be honest, Sasha Banks has always influenced Bayley. And at this point, I think Bayley saw her come back, and she's like, well, nobody else is going to have the back of my friend, Sasha Banks, so I have to have her back. And now it's very, very intriguing because this could be the most dangerous tag team in all of women's wrestling and the women's division right now.
I have to agree with you on that one.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Armando?
Nope.
All right, that's all we have for you guys on this episode of Wrestling with Siblings. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Become a part of the family. And remember, we do launch episodes on Patreon focusing on women's wrestling. If you want to hear more about Becky Lynch, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and the women of the WWE, go subscribe to our Patreon. I will leave the link down below in our description. And for 5 minutes, you can get everything we have to offer when it comes to women's wrestling. And for those of you that do not know what WWS stands for, Armando, what does WWS stand for?
Wrestling with Siblings. Thank you guys so much, and see you guys next time.
And now she's stirring things up against Sasha Banks and Bayley because she knows that Bayley and Sasha are